Yo, it's your boy checking with Rex again, man. Back with another episode, you feel me? Man, y'all been rocking with y'all boy for 4 episodes straight now, man. Like, I appreciate y'all, I really do. So, I like to just get into it, right? So, the topic of the day is. You know what time it is. Oh, yeah, it's my first segment of the podcast. It's the burning question of the day. It's the burning question of the day, you feel me? I'm just messing with y'all. I just like to make it fun, Gotta have fun on podcasts, right? So, the burning question of the day is, what is your definition of a safe space? And how do you recognize whether a space is safe for you or not? This is the moment where I give you as the audience, the time to reflect on the question and relate it back to your life. So I'm going to go ahead and give y'all that time to reflect, because this is a podcast of peace, interaction, and collectiveness, where we reflect, but we don't deflect. And we inflate, but don't deflate. You feel me? So I'm going to go ahead and let that music play. So let me know in the comments down below. Check it with your boy Rex. I want to know y'all answer to the burning question. Everyone defines safe spaces differently, right? Everyone's safe space looks different. So y'all know I like to hop into fun, kind of like an arcade game. Put my 2 cents in the coin slot, you feel me? The bank of collective reflection, where I give y'all my story in context to the question, related back to my personal life currently. But before we do that, right? I want to define what a safe space is for the people out there that don't know. A safe space is a physical or virtual environment where individuals feel secure, accepted, and free from discrimination, criticism, or harm, right? It enables open, honest expression without fear of judgment. So now that I've given you all the dictionary definition of a safe space, let me give you my personal definition. When I think of a safe space, I think of good communication, I think of growth, positivity, and mutual alignment with the people that you're in the space with, right? You could freely express yourself and you don't have to worry about going through these emotions of anger and fear and anxiousness constantly in this space that's supposed to be safe. Kind of reminds me of a safety manager, right? You have to be the manager of your own safety. The role of a safety manager is to develop and implement safety rules, conduct inspections, manage risks, and reduce workplace accidents. Similar to what we have to do, right, when we walk into a space. First, we have to develop and implement boundaries for ourselves within the space. Second, we have to inspect the space to make sure it's safe. And lastly, we have to learn to manage our own safety, right, by being able to identify unsafe hazards when entering a space. You want to feel like you not only can just freely express yourself, but feel seen, feel complete, right, in a space where you can tell someone a secret and they won't go back and tell someone else. A safe space where you can say, hey, I'm going through this. Can I talk to you about the situation? And nobody will judge you and they won't make fun of you. And then they'll also even give you good advice if they're a friend. I personally think that good advice is one key factor of creating a safe space, right? If you go to your friend and they say, hey, get over that heartbreak, man. You don't have to toughen up. That is not a safe space. When I define a safe space, again, expressing yourself freely, being able to communicate, being able to just walk in a room without anxiousness, without fear, without stress. If I feel stressed after a situation, talking to someone, then I know that environment is not for me. If you walk into your job and you feel stressed, right? If you feel anxious to talk to your boss or talk to your coworkers because you feel like they're going to say something to you, that is a stressful, toxic work environment. That is not a safe space. So that's how I define the safe space. Now, how do I know if a safe space isn't safe? Let's talk about it. So I've been in multiple situations where I have not been in safe spaces. Kind of like I told y'all in my past episodes, right? In school, for example, I went through a lot of racism. So when I walked into my school, I was always constantly judged, not just because of the color of my skin, but because how I talked. I didn't talk like the rest of the kids. The way I dressed, I didn't dress like the rest of the kids. And people looked at me as an outsider. Again, it wasn't a safe space. I was constantly having to fight and defend myself, not only in front of the students, but also I had to defend myself against the teachers, right? And so that was not a safe space. I constantly was judged. I was harmed. I was discriminated against. The complete opposite meaning of the term safe space. So that's one example of a space where I did not feel safe. Another example I want to kind of give you all of what I encountered that wasn't a safe space, right, is old friendships. When I was a kid, I used to think everybody was my friend. But I had quickly learned a friendship is not healthy if you can't express yourself freely with them. If I come to you about a situation, right, or something that's personal, and you go and tell somebody else for them to judge me or to cause harm to me, that's not a safe space, right? That's toxic. That's a toxic friendship. Just like we talk about toxic relationships, that's a toxic friendship. So again, that's not a safe space. So I want to give you all 3 examples of what I've encountered as safe spaces in my personal experience. The first one is a physical safe space. Remember, safe spaces can be both physical and virtual. So the first one is my immediate family, my mom, my dad, my younger brother. They have all been there for me, right? I can talk to them about anything and not have to worry about it going back to anybody else. As a child, my parents have always loved and protected me from harm and discrimination. Even when I talked about my school, my parents were going up to my school almost every other day, defending and advocating for me when I was going through harassment and racial discrimination by both the students and the administration. I conversate with my parents openly as they allow me to be myself without judgment or fear. And likewise, because I also should be a safe space for them as well. Another safe space I've encountered in my life is a virtual space, which is online gaming. That was and is my escape from reality. So I have made some incredible friends that not only uplift me, but support me in my journey as a filmmaker, now podcaster, and business owner. And my final example of safe spaces that I've encountered throughout my life was my dog Simba and nature. And they kind of go hand to hand. But I had Simba for 17 and a half years. He recently passed in November. He was one of a kind. He was my safe space because he was always there for me throughout the good and the bad. I'm talking holidays, birthdays, graduations, when I was going through it in primary school, right? When I was going through racial discrimination. And like I mentioned in my last episode, right? When I was in grad school, I was going through that season of isolation, looking at it from a negative perspective. He was my emotional support. And likewise for him. He loved when I would give him treats, spent time with him, when I would rub him, especially he loved his belly rubs. But he was always there for me, and I was always there for him. So, in going back to the whole nature aspect, I mentioned nature as being one of my examples. Nature for me has always been something that, it's always been a safe space that's given me peace and comfort. And my dog, me and him would spend time outside on the porch, and we'd always just kind of feel the breeze. He loved to sunbathe. So sometimes I'd sit on the porch with him, I'd rub him. We just spent time with one another. So those are examples of safe spaces for me in my personal life. And while we're on the topic today of safe spaces, it makes me think of the recent situation with Michael B. Jordan and Delroy Lindo at the BAFTA Awards. That was not a safe space for them, right? They were called the N-word, nobody batted an eye, and they made excuses for the person that said it and made excuses for the network itself. So again, that was not a safe space. But compare that when they were at the NAACP Awards, right? That was a safe space because everybody welcomed them. Everybody made them feel seen. Everybody congratulated them on their accomplishments in the film industry. That was their safe space. Now compare that again to the BAFTA Awards. That wasn't a safe space like we talked about, right? They were emotionally harmed. They were discriminated against by their race. The definition talked about a safe space being places where people don't feel harmed or discriminated against. That was what they felt, harmed and discriminated against. So we know by definition that that was not a safe space. No one protected them. Also, ask yourself, am I protected in this space? If it is not a space of protection, that is not a safe space. Think of it like a refugee, right? Historically, people have always gone to safe haven places and refugee camps for protection from places that aren't safe, right? The definition of a refugee safe haven is designated areas, organizations, or cities providing protection, legal assistance, and temporary housing. So again, think of a safe space like a refugee camp. You go there for peace. You go there for protection. You want to be protected from things that aren't safe. So you got to really analyze and navigate through different spaces to really determine, is this a safe space for me? If not, pack it up and move, right? Just be on the move. Be like a nomad back in the old days. You feel me? Like, pack up and move and don't look back. That's how you have to be, because if it's not bringing you peace, that's when it can affect your health mentally and physically. And that's not good for the soul or the mind. Let's go ahead and transition to my favorite segment of the podcast, Lucid Madness. You feel me? But before we do that, I need y'all to close y'all eyes just for 1 second and follow me as we embark on the journey of lucid madness. What if we lived in a society where we didn't need safe spaces, where everyone, no matter race, religion, or gender, could express themselves freely? Would we have more peaceful interactions amongst each other? And would our society look different and become less divisive? Furthermore, this makes me wonder about the current events that's affecting our society today, right? Like, imagine, what if our world followed the same moral code that stood by fairness and righteousness? Would the US be at war with Iran right now? Would Palestine and Nigeria have been targets of bombings? These are the real what-if burning questions that need answers. I mean, could you imagine where people can enter a room and feel safe without any racial and religious divides, right? This could cause a society where people are less antisocial. Just think about that for a second as we continue this episode. So now let's two-step to the last segment of the podcast, concrete thinking, right? This is where we take all the knowledge, right? All the materials that we've gained from the episode. We mix it together to be concrete in our thinking. I've given you the water, the sand, the gravel. And so now we're going to take these materials, mix them together, and now we've become concrete in our thinking from what we've learned throughout the episode. So check it. In this episode, we discussed the definition of a safe space, how to determine whether a space is safe or not, learning to manage your own safety, and then finally, maneuvering like a nomad when a space is not safe. 3 questions I gave you all to ask yourselves when entering a space is 1, is this space allowing you to be yourself? 2, is this space making me feel stress, anxiety, or fear? And the last one, is this space allowing me to reach my full potential and grow? And after asking those 3 questions, really identify your feelings, right? One of the things that's super important is staying in tune with your feelings. When you walk into that space, does it make you feel whole? Does it make you feel loved? Do you feel at peace? Do you feel comfort? Do you feel relaxed, right? And most importantly, do you feel confident? And that's how you truly identify if that is a safe space or not. And as we close out this episode, I just want to thank y'all again for rocking with your boy Check It with Rex, man. 4 episodes straight, you feel me? And it's been an honor so far being your host. I appreciate all the love and support. Again, Check It with Rex is streaming on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Audible, and now I'm on YouTube. Also, I just want to let y'all know I got my Substack newsletter, so I'll add all that in the comments below. And I'm thinking about switching the video for the final episode of the season, episode 10 of the podcast. You feel me? Just to give y'all a sneak peek. The title is Era of Confidence, right? Because I'm entering my era of confidence as I finally switch the video and make that transition. So thank you again for listening to another episode with your boy Check It with Rex. You feel me? And I'll see y'all next time.